Hey friends! So today I'm going to take you through my expansion paradigm, essentially an entire process for unbinding yourself from the conditioning of limitation and allowing ourselves to shift into a more expanded paradigm of possibilities where we can create quantum leaps in our results and in our reality in partnership with our nervous system. So I'm sitting in a slightly different place today because there was noise, but I feel like the sun is about to hit my face. Hopefully, I won't have to move and it won't be a big deal. Um, so, there's a couple ways that we can kind of create quantum leaps or exponential results in our life and in our business. The first one is slowly over time with lots of hard work. And the other is exponential, essentially by thinking outside the box, by expanding our identity, our neurology, our biology, and shifting something both within us and within our reality that collapses time and space so that things start to happen with a lot more ease and a lot more speed. We're literally almost like bending time to bring about results faster. So when we create a quantum leap, it has to come from inside. And it has to be done in resonance with your nervous system. Essentially, it has to feel safe to your nervous system, and your nervous system has to have the capacity for the kind of growth, the kind of shift that you're trying to create. If not, your energy will collapse, your nervous system will contract, and you'll experience what I call a whiplash or a backlash, and potentially like totally sabotage the process, but also potentially end up worse off. So, like a common example, obviously, are people who win the lottery, who their identity did not match the expansion that showed up in their reality. And so at some point, they screw up the whole thing, and 4 or 5 years later, a lot of them end up significantly worse off than where they were at. Another common example that I see, especially with entrepreneurs, is when you have a big month, you have a big influx of client, and suddenly, like, it's a desert. So this feast and famine type of thing, where it's like you get something big and then nothing, and then big and then nothing. That tends to be something that happens when our nervous system, like the capacity of our nervous system, is not calibrated for more. And we end up essentially, when we go into that bigness, something in us doesn't feel safe. Something in us feels like it's too much. And we overwhelm ourselves and we collapse our capacity. So literally a quantum leap has to come from the inside. It's your inner reality, your nervous system, your brain, your biochemistry, your identity essentially starts to expand. And as you expand, then your external reality starts to expand as a match to that. And it starts to do it in a way that is sustainable. Because if it's not sustainable, then no one wants it. You don't want it. When your nervous system is at its most whole, its most expanded, that's when it allows us to create seeming miracles and to start to mold reality in a way that mirrors our own expansiveness. Like in some ways, reality is always a mirror for where we're at. So when you see something happening in your outer reality, it's actually mirroring something that's happening in us. And that's why nervous system expansion work is so powerful in terms of being able to create, receive, have, and hold more, because we become more spacious. We become bigger. We become anchored in safety and in security. And then the outside world seems to become more, to be safe, to be secure, to bring us that sense of safety and security. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore. I have 4 steps that we need to take to essentially create these seeming miracles and to totally shift ourselves and our reality and speed up our results with a lot more ease. And that's what we're going to go into in our training today. Before I get into it, let me introduce myself. I forgot. Hi, I'm Ilsa. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a total spiritual nerd. This is one of my favorite things, essentially like blending science and neuropsychology with the more spiritual realm of manifesting and creating and receiving and shifting paradigm. Like it's my juice. It's something that really lights me up. And for the last 18 years, I've been a psychotherapist, an expansion expert, and a strategist. I essentially work mainly with entrepreneurs and leaders and some managers and such, some CEOs. And I teach my clients how to rewire their nervous system, their lives, their relationships, their bodies, and their businesses for more. So if that's what you want, you're in the right spot. I'm going to go into this special offer at the end, but just so you know, in case you don't make it all the way to the end, I have 2 intensives left in this year at 55% off. And it's basically my Wired for Wealth intensive is how you get a taste of this work. It's 90 minutes one-on-one with me at 55% off. So it's $149. And essentially, we unlock the power of your nervous system. We look at your business, we look at where you're holding yourself back and what we need to shift within you for you to experience easeful growth, radical receiving, joyful wealth. And in this intensive, I literally teach you my step-by-step process hatching for rewiring yourself for more. So you can book that by clicking the link in the description of this video. And like I said, there's only 2 left for the rest of this year. So first, let's kind of define what a quantum leap is. So a quantum leap is defined as the exponential and the dramatic jump that a particle of matter undergoes when it's moving from one space to another. And essentially, it does that. It moves from one space to the other in a quantum jump or in a quantum leap without seeming to take any kind of time or any kind of effort to cover that distance. So a quantum leap is essentially a collapse of time and of space and of resistance that allows us as humans to create and receive a big shift in our results, in our reality. And sometimes that happens instantaneously. Now, the trick is to do it in such a way where that leap, that expansion can be maintained, and it can be maintained in a way that feels really nourishing and sustainable for our body. In my experience, I have kind of found 4 steps that significantly speed up that process of exponential growth, both in our lives and in our business, with as little friction as possible. So here's step 1. Step 1 is first we start to work at the level of beliefs and the minds. And essentially step 1 is you got to get out of your mental box by releasing resistance and releasing all the rules of limitations that you've bought into. And we do that by shifting into a paradigm of possibilities. So oftentimes when we're talking about growth, we are the one thing that's holding us back. We have old programs that are deeply anchored inside us that sometimes have been passed down from generations to generations. They've been taught and reinforced by our culture. And these rules, these programs, they essentially keep us in a paradigm of limitation. They keep us in a paradigm of things have to be slow and steady, a paradigm of stagnation is safe, and a paradigm of efforting, hard work is the way. So things like the early bird gets the worm, idle hands are the devil's playground, easy come, easy go, money doesn't grow on trees, or even like I was raised, my father's favorite fable was the ant and the grasshopper, which is a fable by La Fontaine. Like literally, he would read it to me every week. I memorized it for school. And the story in the grasshopper and the ant is basically the ant spends all summer working hard, and then feels is safe and has plenty of food for the winter. Meanwhile, the grasshopper, the cicada, sings all summer long and has fun all summer long. And then when winter comes, she starves to death. That's what I was brought up on. This concept of if we have too much fun, if it's too easy, if we enjoy ourselves too much, we're moving towards our ruin. We're something bad's going to happen. And the only way to be successful, the only way to be safe is to work really hard, is to effort, is to be serious. The problem with that in some ways is that everything within us rebels against that. Everything within us doesn't want to work hard, doesn't want things to be hard, doesn't want to have to sacrifice for success. And so it becomes this weird self-sabotaging pattern. So the first step in step one here is we have to recognize these patterns, these beliefs, and how they start showing up in our lives and how we're actually even participating in them. Like in some ways, we might not believe consciously that they're true, but something in here believes that they're true because we're living them in our reality. And then we have to start considering, what if there's a different way? What if more is possible? So that, in step one literally has like 3 steps or 3 levels. The first step is you have to become aware. You have to become aware that there's this old programming, this old paradigm that's like pushing down on us. And that to some degree or another, we're playing. We're playing in that paradigm. We've agreed to the rules. How do I know that? Because we're experiencing them. We can't experience rules we haven't agreed to. We can't experience a game we're not playing. So if you have an experience of things are hard, things are slow, things are tough, things take a lot of effort to get results, something in you has bought into that paradigm, has agreed to it, has accepted it as truth, and is participating and playing into it. So that's first, is we have to become aware of our own role and take some degree of responsibility. Because without that, we can't push our paradigm from, and our identity from someone who has to earn money rather than being able to receive it. Like that's the new paradigm. The new paradigm is money doesn't need to be earned. It gets to be received. The new paradigm is we don't have to create from force or from push. We get to create from peace and flow and pleasure. And so, I don't know if you can hear the dogs, but I don't know. Something's happening out there and they're going crazy. But we have to shift from our identity of being someone who has to effort through our business to someone who gets to enjoy our life and our business. So that's our big work, is first becoming aware and freeing ourselves from these old rules and agreements by shifting our reality into a place of possibility where simplicity and satisfaction actually gets to unlock success, not hard work. So I'm looking at my notes. I'm ahead, guys. So how do we explode ourselves outside of that box of those rules? As stated, First, you have to realize that you're participating in it, that to some degree you have normalized this paradigm, you've normalized this way of being. How do you know? Because you're seeing it in your life, because you're feeling it inside here. You can't experience a reality you haven't said yes to, essentially. And we have to take some degree of responsibility. The second thing we have to do in this first step is we have to learn to bring our nervous system back into a place of regulation, relaxation, and receptivity with the way things are. And this might seem paradoxical. Like, why would we want to be okay with the way things are since we're trying to shift out of that? But the truth is, you can't shift and expand if you are at war with the present, if you are at war with what is. You can't create the future you desire from being in resistance, in push to the present that's happening. And so once you realize, oh shit, I am believing this thing, I am participating in the very paradigm I want to be freed of. I'm participating and things takes hard work. They take a long time. They take a lot of effort. I'm participating in that. I have to own that. Then I get to neutralize all that resistance to the way things are. I get to come back to a place of feeling okay with the way things are, feeling okay with ourselves, having our own back, being in a place of self-acceptance, and being in a place of acceptance of our reality. We neutralize all the friction and all the resistance. And we come back to some degree of neutrality, some degree of spaciousness. Because the moment you create space within yourself, something has the potential to shift. Frustration, friction, resistance, busy making, all of that actually creates a ton of energy. It's energy. And it's energy that's fueling and feeding the paradigm that you're actually wanting to escape. So first, become aware and take ownership that you're participating. Second, bring your whole nervous system back into some degree of regulation, of peace, of non-resistance and neutrality with the way things are. And then the third step of step one is come back into possibility. Like, start to realize that if you want more, that means more is possible. And not only is it possible, it's possible for you. Often when I do this work with clients and we're working on regulating the nervous system, there's a point in that work where everything's settled, where everything is open, where everything is relaxed and receptive. And then I will drop some kind of question, something like, so now that this thing is no longer a problem, what's possible? What do you do instead? What becomes available to you? What do you give yourself permission to be, do, have, try? And so from this place of openness, some kind of genius, some kind of truth of what more is possible starts to emerge. And that's when like a new, a simpler, a more satisfying possibility becomes available. And the only reason it becomes available is because your nervous system is no longer busy fighting reality. It's no longer either busy participating in a reality you don't want, and it's also no longer busy fighting a reality you don't want. It's here. It's relaxed, it's open, it's regulated, it's spacious. And in that spaciousness, something more, a possibility of more gets to emerge. And so when you are in this place of more is possible, that's when you start to do some inquiry work. Like, do I want this thought, this rule, this belief, this experience to be true? Like when you say to yourself, no one's buying right now. Pause. This is a thought that belongs to that old paradigm. Do I want this thought? Do I want this reality to be true? And if the answer is no, you come back in neutrality, you come back in relaxation, and you come back into this place of if I want more than that, if I conceive that more is possible, then it must be possible. And it must be possible for me. And you literally decide that last step of step one, like all of step one, is essentially about coming to a place where you have the capacity to decide and to claim that more is possible. And you're doing it from this place of openness. Oh, I see the sun. The sun is shifting. All right. Hopefully, I'm going to continue a little more. If I need to move, I will move. So you're neutralizing resistance. You are deciding which thoughts, which beliefs, which rule you want to claim as your own and you want to participate in. So again, you're becoming an active participant of a shift in reality, of a shift in paradigm. And then you decide, this is not mine. This is not the paradigm I want to live into. More is possible for me. And to decide, they say that the word decision actually comes from the same Latin root as incision. So to decide at its highest level means to cut yourself off from any other possibility. So to decide is to essentially decide that we're no longer available for that old paradigm, that we're no longer available for what we don't want, and that we're fully committed to embodying a new way of being, a new reality. Essentially, to decide is to decide to stop and to commit to stop participating in a paradigm that does not light you up, that does not align with what you believe in your heart, not in your programming, not in your head, maybe not even in your nervous system, but in your heart. So whenever you're believing in and you're participating in struggle, in hard work, in busy making, catch yourself. Stop. Decide, this isn't what I want. This isn't me. Come back to regulation and to neutrality by releasing all that resistance you have to what's happening. And then fully claim more is possible. That's step one in all its power. Deciding that more is possible. And not only is it possible, it is possible for you. All right, I'm moving. Come with me. Let's move. Bear with me. All right. What a mess. What a mess. Hopefully this will be better. I'm shifting, moving things around. It's a little better. It's not great, but we're going to deal with it because in the end, you're not here to just watch my face. So there. All right. So that was step one. Step one, to recap, realize that you're participating in the paradigm you no longer want. Bring your nervous system back into regulation and release the resistance you have to what's happening so that you're not at war with the present and you're not essentially giving energy to what you don't want. And then decide that if you want more, more is possible and it's possible for you. So that's step one. Step two, once you start shifting your mind and your belief system, then the next step, step two, is to start to really shift the nervous system and what I call your neural box. So first you're shifting your mental box, now you're shifting your neural box. You see, shifting things at the level of the mind, like realizing you're participating, like deciding that more is possible for you, like that's the first step. It's amazing, but it is the tip of the iceberg. It's limited in how much depth you have. Like once you decide that something is possible, you also have to embody and feel comfortable with more. And you have to start rewiring, recalibrating your body and your neural network to support that new paradigm that you're trying to build. So when you decide that something is possible, then you want to start getting curious. How does that possibility feel in your body? Like when you imagine more, you imagine charging more, you imagine bringing in a bunch of clients, you imagine one of your posts or one of your videos going viral. Notice what happens in here. More than likely, you're going to find that something in you kind of has what I call an oh shit moment with more. Something in you doesn't quite feel safe with that level of bigness. So something in you feels like more doesn't quite feel safe. Something in you has doubt about it. Something in you doesn't feel like you have the capacity to hold it, that you are worthy, that you are deserving of it. But you will notice that when we start to really step into more, usually there's some kind of friction that happens internally. And that's what we have to start unraveling so that we don't sabotage the process of more. So this is our big work at this point, to essentially start to increase our nervous system capacity for more and to start to normalize more inside us so that it feels like very much possible for us. It's not just that we know and we decide that if it's possible for us, but that we actually feel it. So this step 2 is basically all about moving beyond just opening your mind to a new possible paradigm and moving beyond just deciding to recalibrating your body and your nervous system so that it feels really safe, really normal, and really expected for you. So, money, I like to use money sometimes just because it's such a simple example. But I'm going to use the number of $5,000. There was a time in my business where creating, without any doubt, $5,000 every month recurring was like a pipe dream. I never imagined I could see myself having 1 or 2 months here and there where I would be, but I couldn't quite hold that could be possible. And then as we move things within us, as I moved things within me, as I expanded my nervous system, suddenly $5,000 every month, not only does it feel possible, it feels like no big deal. That's the normalizing. That's the expectation part. Here's the thing. If something feels like a big deal to you in here, it will be a big deal creating it out there. So rather than trying to create something, we want to calibrate and become a match for it in here. And we want to feel like this isn't a big deal. This is totally doable. I have the capacity for it. I don't feel overwhelmed in any ways. When we're that clear, that safe, that anchored within ourselves, then creating it out there becomes simple. That's when we start having the ideas, the opportunities show up. We execute in a way that creates, we change our business model in a way that creates what we want. So your old paradigm has been created over a lifetime, maybe even multiple lifetimes if you consider genetics, and maybe if you consider past lives. I don't know. But it's been re-anchored and re-anchored and re-anchored inside you. So to really change your reality, you have to go deeper than beliefs. And it has to include a rewiring and a recalibration of your nervous system, because your reality always follows your nervous system. And retraining your neurology, your brain, your biochemistry doesn't happen by just changing your mind or thinking of possibilities, imagining a new possibilities, which is, I think, why the whole law of attraction and manifestation sometimes doesn't work, because we're staying too up here rather than really doing the work to shift our entire neural box, to shift our body, to embody a new reality so that we can see a new reality. Money work is body work. Reality work is body work. So our nervous system will usually not allow us to experience something that feels uncomfortable, something that feels out of our zone of safety. And so part of this step 2 is making that next step, that quantum leap we want, feel very comfortable and very safe in our body first, so that our nervous system doesn't sabotage it, doesn't resist it, doesn't push against it, which is essentially what happens with people who win the lottery. They win the lottery, their nervous system is not calibrated for it, and so they lose it all. And oftentimes they throw their whole lives into all sorts of messes along the way because their nervous system is having a freak out, essentially. When you push yourself out of your zone of safety, your nervous system gets dysregulated, gets contracted. It ends up, especially in business, we come into either a place of freezing and not knowing what to do, where we're literally like procrastinating, or we're continuously spinning and changing our mind, so we're not taking action, or we're running, we're doing 1,500 things and we have no idea what's going to make a difference, like we're busy making, or we come into a place where we're doing a lot of like working on ourselves and improving ourselves and people pleasing, or hiding out to not stand out. Those are all reaction of your nervous system being out of its zone of safety. And every time you do that and you try to expand your business, expand your results, you're going to reinforce struggle and feeling stuck if you don't first create the quantum leap in here and shift your neural box. So at this point, you're essentially calibrating your nervous system to the new reality that you desire. You're rewiring that nervous system to feel safe, supported, and big enough to handle more. Usually when I'm working with clients, I do my hatching process for that. And it's kind of like a pendulum practice, where essentially we bring the nervous system into regulation, then we shift into expansion, we shift into more, and we see what kind of contraction shows up, and we teach the nervous system to come back into regulation with more. And then we expand again, and then we come back into regulation with more. And then we expand again, and then we come back into regulation around this expansion. Essentially, we teach the nervous system to stay regulated with more in expansion. But for those of you, here's something that you can do on your own. So if you think and you start to feel into more, into your big possibility, into having and holding more clients, more money, more free time, more spaciousness, like whatever it is that you want, you imagine having more. And you imagine having a lot more. Then ask yourself, what does my body, what does my brain, what do all my young parts need to feel safe, to feel supported, and to feel like they have the capacity to hold this much bigger reality? So as you imagine more visibility, start asking yourself over and over, what does my nervous system need? What does my brain need? What does my body need? What do all these young parts inside me need to feel safe, to feel supported, to feel capable of having this much? And journal it, come back into it. Start bringing the body into a place of calm, into a place of trust, into a place of grounded confidence with more. And you do that with love, with compassion, with unwavering support for yourself. All the doubts that come up, all the fears, you learn to hold them. You learn to hold yourself until they start to settle and dissolve. And until dwelling in possibility starts to feel safe and starts to feel like home. So that's your big work over and over. What do I need to feel safe being this big, having this much? What do all the young parts inside me need to feel really calm, really worthy, really deserving of more? So whenever feeling like a victim comes up, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, fear, you ask all of you, what do you need right now? You who is overwhelmed, you who's trying so hard, you who can't stop moving, you who can't celebrate your win and feels like you got to keep doing, you who feels like you have to be perfect. What do you need to feel safe, to feel supported, to feel like you are enough? And you keep bringing the nervous system back into this place where more feels safe. So, or you can come and work with me and I'll teach you my process step by step. Through this process of rewiring and recalibrating the nervous system to feel deeply safe, deeply at home with more, to feel like more is normal and is expected, what happens is you become a match and you start to enter into what we call empathic resonance with the reality that you want to experience. And it is that resonance, it is that sense of deep safety, of feeling deeply at home with more, that starts to really collapse space and time because you're no longer resisting it. You're no longer doubting yourself. You're literally changing your identity. You're literally at this point becoming a version of yourself, a new version of yourself. And this new version of yourself gets to live in a new reality. You have to be able to think it, feel it, be it, to safely see it and experience it out there. So that's step 2. Step 2 is you rewire the nervous system to become a match, to become in empathic resonance with what you want. And you start to rewire your identity to feel really safe, really worthy, really capable, and really supported in that new reality, in that bigness. Whatever you normalize in here becomes normalized out there. Now, step 3. And at the end, I'm going to go through all the steps again. So you have them like really nicely short, side by side. So here you are, like step 1, you've neutralized resistance and you're dwelling in possibility. And then in step 2, you started to feel safe and feel comfortably anchored in expansion within your nervous system, within your body. So step 1 is all about shifting your mind, exploding out of the rules that keep you small, Step 2 is all about starting to embody a new reality and become a match for that new reality. So here you are. You've done step 1, you've done step 2. The next step is about connecting from that state of expansion, from that state of openness, of connecting to what I call right brain genius, to connecting to the intelligence that already dwells within you and figuring out exactly what it is that you need to do to finally collapse that time and space. So here in step 3, we're starting to come towards creating a plan, having clarity on what it is we're supposed to do step by step. What actions are in alignment with this new reality? When you're in this place of regulated expansion and you feel anchored in calm, in certainty, you essentially are becoming a version of you who is already worthy, already capable of receiving and having what you want. They're literally anchored in that new paradigm. That version of you is the one who needs to take the decision, who needs to decide what's next, not who you are. When you make decisions from who you are and where you are now, who you are and where you are is what you create. And that's not what we want. So in step 3, once you're really anchored in that certainty, in that clarity, in that sense of calm, of feeling in expansion, but also feeling really safe in that expansion, that's when you want to start looking at everything in your life and in your business. And you want to start checking what is in alignment with the reality I'm building and what is in alignment with the reality I no longer want. You're going to know when something feels like a no, it feels like out of alignment, it's going to feel too tight inside you, too small, or it's going to feel too much and heavy. And that's how you're going to know this isn't me. This is not what I'm wanting. So if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel exciting, if it doesn't feel nourishing, it's a no. And so from this place of embodied genius, you want to start looking at all the areas where things feel hard. And you want to start asking yourself, what would be a more exciting, simple, nourishing way of doing this, of accomplishing this? And then see what kind of ideas, what kind of genius emerges. You want to look at your business and you want to say, like, what do I really want to offer? What feels really exciting and expansive and nourishing to me to offer my clients? And you want to see what you need to shift in your current offers. Same thing with your marketing. You want to look into what strategies feel like me, what strategies feel deeply easeful and nourishing and fun, and feel like they would lead to the most results with the least effort. But you can't ask these questions when you're in your tight, contracted nervous system current reality, because then you're going to answer these questions from your current reality. You want to ask them from this place of expansion, from this place of deep regulation with more. Because then the answers you're going to get come from more. Same thing, ask, like, who do I need to talk to? How do I elevate my message? What prices feel really good? And by the way, I don't believe that always means more. Sometimes the price that's going to feel really good is lowering your price, shifting your offer in some ways. Like, you don't know what the answers are going to be. That's part of it. Like, you don't know. So you get to come into this place of expansion and regulation, and you get to ask all these questions. And essentially, that's what I do oftentimes in sessions with clients, is we come into this place of regulated expansion, and then we look at the business. Okay, what's the messaging? What's your highest level work? What would feel really simple here? What would feel fun? And we literally start rewiring the business from this internal rewiring. And by the way, you don't have to just do this about your business. This 4-step process can be done for your life. Like, you can ask from this place of regulated expansion, what is needed right now to rekindle the intimacy and the connection in my marriage? And journal. See what comes up. See what your genius is saying, because now you have direct access to that expansive genius. What does my body need so that I have more energy, I sleep better, I have more confidence and well-being? What do I need to shift in my diet, in my habits? How do I help my sister, my friend, whatever, with her addiction in a way that's going to honor me and her? You can ask questions about any area of your life and business from this place of expansion, and you can trust the answers that you get, because these answers are literally connected and calibrated to infinite possibilities. They are connected, they are calibrated to that new next level paradigm you're starting and desiring to shift into. And these answers will work because they come from you. They're not answers that somebody else gave you. They're answers that come from your heart. They're answers that come from your own expansiveness, from your own sovereignty. They're answers that come from the most peaceful and powerful version of you. A version of you that is not anchored in all these old programmings, all these fears, all these doubts, all these old ways of being and thinking. Okay, so that is step 3. Step 1, you release any resistance and you come back into neutrality, and you start to shift your mind into the fact that infinite possibilities, more is possible for you. Step 2, you start to rewire your nervous system to feel safe with more, to normalize more, to become an empathic match for more, and to essentially start to be in resonance with the reality that you want. Step 3, once you feel like you are in this place of calm, of certainty, of expansiveness, and you're regulated in that expansion, it feels normal, it feels safe, it feels good, it feels expected. You start to ask questions about how to shift and what to do next to really start to anchor into this new reality. And step 4 is you come into a process of taking action from trust. Taking action by following the guidance that you've just received in the last step. And you keep taking action from, like, moving from trust while you continue to regulate and expand your nervous system as you move. Because moving from trust is hard. Because usually we don't see the results right away. There's always a little bit of lag. I like to say that action is literally the final step to collapsing where you're at with where you want to be. Action is literally the thing that tells your nervous system, that tells the universe that you are ready for that quantum leap. You are ready for those exponential results. And as you act, you're literally like two magnets coming together. You're literally collapsing where you are and where you want to be into one reality. But there's a little bit of a time lag oftentimes into this. And so we have to learn to stay expanded, even though we can't see results yet. We have to learn to stay regulated and to stay in trust, even though we can't see results yet, and to really anchor into our certainty without the results yet. So trust is more than a feeling. It is an action. And action from trust is the most powerful thing you can do for really doing that final embodiment of that reality within you. Action is what allows you to normalize that new reality, to get really in resonance with it, and to finalize the anchoring of that new reality within your mind, your body, your neurocircuitry, your nervous system, and your heart, and your reality. Like at some point when you do that, you start to see it. It's the piece that makes all the pieces come together and finally work. Now, they all kind of fit with each other. Like in step 2, you're rewiring yourself to be in resonance for what you desire, but you can't do that if you haven't done step 1, which is stop being at war with what is and actually start to consider that more is possible. And not only is it possible, it's possible for you. So if you don't believe that it's possible and it's possible for you, you can't rewire your nervous system and become a match for the reality you want. You can't normalize more in your body. If you can't normalize more in your body and you can't come into this place of expansion, you can't have access to your genius. And your genius is what gives you all the steps. But those steps are the final piece. Once you have access to these steps, you don't know that they're going to work until you work them. And so that's where trust comes in. That's when aligned action comes in. As you walk the steps that you're given by your own, like literally like expansive genius, your right brain genius, sometimes I call it, as you get those steps, the more you work those steps, the more you step into that new reality. Step, 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 step. So those are the 4 steps. And I'm going to say one last thing before I give you a recap. I want to invite you to be very gentle with yourself and to get support along the path. If it's not from me, it's from someone else. It doesn't matter. Because it's hard to see ourselves. And because the old ways of being, of seeing, of creating, of receiving, they've got years of muscles. Sometimes they've got generations and a bunch of conditioning from the culture. And that anchor, those old muscles of the old paradigm are always going to pull us back at first. Because it's well worn, it's well known, it's comfortable, even though it's not satisfying. So we'll make one step forward, a couple steps forward, and it'll pull us back. We'll have doubt, and we'll come back into an old way of being. Our big work is to love ourselves through the ups and downs of becoming a resonant match for what we want, through the ups and downs of rewiring all these old patterns that are lodged in our nervous system, and essentially like holding ourselves lovingly as we regulate ourselves over and over and over into more. And we do that until the old muscles start to atrophy and the new muscle, the new neural pathways start to become strong. And they start to feel like us now, not the old way. Because you see, at some level, we're not wired for exponential growth. We're wired to stay safe and stay small, not too visible, not too big, safe in the just enough zone. Up-leveling beyond our conditioning, beyond our rewiring, is automatically going to bring up a lot of resistance, a lot of contraction, a lot of fears. And so you're going to hold that vision for more, that more is possible, and there's going to be a little bit of a tug of war. you're going to expand, and then you're going to contract. Something in you's going to be like, oh no, it can't be that big. Like, that's the process. And there's nothing wrong with it. You're not wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You just have to learn to hold yourself kindly as you navigate these fears, these wounds, these doubts, these old programs. And to have a system, a reliable process that you can come back to teach all of you, hey, you're safe. It's okay. I've got you. We're going to figure this out. And essentially come back to this place of regulation within expansion. All right, so let's do a quick recap for those of you who missed the beginning, and then we'll end. I don't know how long I've been going, but probably longer than I want to. So step 1 is all about shifting your beliefs, your thoughts from a limited conditioning and limited rules, limited paradigm to limitless possibilities. And it has 3 levels. Level 1 of step 1 is you have to become aware that if you are experiencing something in your reality, that means that at some level, even unconsciously, you have agreed to and you are actively participating in the paradigm that created that reality. So if you're in a reality where everything feels hard, everything feels slow, where everything feels overwhelming, where people are not buying, like whatever that reality is, where you're overwhelmed, you're overworked, you are buying and participating in the programming that created that reality. You have to own it so you can change it. At some degree, you have normalized that this is the way things are. So that's level 1 of step 1. You have to become aware, you have to own it. The second level of step 1 is you have to learn to stop being at war with what is. You have to bring your nervous system back into regulation and release whatever resistance you're having to what's happening. Because resistance, friction, actually creates energy and feeds what you don't want. It gives it reality in some ways. You cannot shift and expand if you're at war with the present. You cannot create the future you desire if you are in some kind of resistance with your present. So that's level 2, is come back to a place of regulation and neutrality, so you're not feeding what you no longer want, and so that you can start to create some space. And from that space is where possibility emerges. And that's level 3 of step 1. Level 3 of step 1 is once you're back into regulation and neutrality and a place of openness and spaciousness, then you get to start to question what you're thinking, what you're experiencing, and you start to decide that you want more. And if you want more, more must be possible, because you wouldn't want it if it wasn't possible. And not only is it possible, it's possible for you. It's not just possible for someone else, it's possible for you. And at this level, you start having some control again. You start to decide whether or not you want the reality, the thoughts that you're thinking to be true. And if you don't, you come back into regulation, you release it, and you come back into the sense of, no, there's a different way here. There's more possibility. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you're moving beyond the mind. Now that you've come into a place of possibility and in a place of neutrality up here, you start to rewire your nervous system, rewire your body to feel really safe, really good, really comfortable with more, with the possibility of that next level. In step 2, you're not only expanding your nervous system, you're rewiring your identity, and you're becoming a match you're starting to get into empathic resonance with the reality that you want, so that there will be no resistance, no friction, no sabotage when the results you want start to show up. So step 2 is all about allowing more to feel comfortable and normalized and expected inside your body. It feels so normal that you don't even notice that you're bringing in clients. You don't even notice that you're making more money. You don't even notice that all these opportunities are showing up because they're not shocking to you, because it's normal in here. And that allows you to create more and to hold more with joy, with ease, and with a felt sense of being nourished by your life and your business. In step 3, once you're anchored in more and your nervous system is expanded, your identity is expanded, you start to connect with your genius. You start to connect with that version of you who has it already, with that right brain. Essentially, the part of you that's operating from solutions, from expansion, and not from contraction, not from problems. And you start to look at every area of your life where you feel that friction, that tension, that hard, and you start to just simply ask, what's my next step here? How do I make this more nourishing? How do I make this simpler? What's the thing I need to let go of, and what's the thing I need to do more of? How do I bring more of this in my relationship? How do I bring more of this in my business? And you just start journaling and looking at what are the breadcrumbs, the actual actions that are showing up as you're answering these questions from genius. And then step 4, you get into action. You start to trust all the guidance you're receiving, and you start to get into these aligned action and this moving from trust, even though you might not see results right away. And those actions, this moving from trust, is what collapses the space and the time between where you're at and where you want to be until it is one reality. All right, that is what I have for you today. I want to take a last minute to invite you to book one of my Wired for Wealth intensive. I only have a couple left for this year. I will not do any of them in December, so it's only for November. And I had 3 open. I sold one. I only have a couple left. So if you are ready to shift out of contraction, if you're curious about really diving into a journey of expansion and rewiring your reality from the inside out, creating more in partnership with your nervous system, then I want to invite you to book this session. It's a commitment of 90 minutes with me and $149. That's 55% off. And during this intensive, essentially, we're going to explore and figure out what are some of the nervous system wounds, the blocks, the contractions that are holding you back. And I'm going to teach you my proprietary hatching process. This is something I only teach face-to-face or over Zoom because I customize it to you. I show you how to do it. I answer questions so you know exactly what to do step by step to take yourself out of contraction and back into expansion. And you get to do that over and over in every area of your life and business. Together during this session, I show you how to unlock the power of your nervous system and how to start bringing a new emergence, a new way of experiencing, creating, receiving more in your life and in your business, and in a way that really, truly delights you and nourishes you. So if this feels exciting, click the link in the description of this video. Let's get to work. This isn't a sales call. This is an expansion experience. And if at the end you want to keep working with me, I'll give you a couple different options. I will leave you with this. You are the most powerful force in your life and in your business. The peace you seek is inside you. And your nervous system is the gateway there. It's the gateway to healing your past and to unlocking your potential and the possibility that is available to you in your future. So you get to heal the past and unlock the future that is possible for you. And I would love to be your guide on that journey. All right, that's what I have. I hope all the lighting and moving wasn't too distracting and you got something out of this video. Bye, guys. Have a lovely rest of your week.